It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and I know there was not a new episode yesterday. When I was posting the Reviewing Network Live episode that went out yesterday, I had to re-edit it because there were some things in there with some copyright problems there, so I didn't have the time to actually put together an episode by the time I actually got finished with that. So that's why there was no episode yesterday, and that's why there is one here tonight. So let's go ahead and get to it. We're talking about the movies of June 29th, 2001. 4 movies to look at here. We have a lot to get to, so let's get right to it. And we'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is the Steven Spielberg-Stanley Kubrick collaboration, AI, Artificial Intelligence. So like I said, this is the collaboration of Steven Spielberg and Stanley Kubrick, who actually worked on this film all the way up to his death in 1999. And when he basically started working on this movie all the way back in the 1970s, and he hired all these different writers, it never really came together until the 1990s. And, you know, he felt that the CGI was not advanced enough to create this character. And in about 4 years before he died, he passed this over to Spielberg, and it did not gain any real momentum until Kubrick passed away after Eyes Wide Shut came out. Before Eyes Wide Shut came out, I'm sorry, But yeah, this is a film that is Spielberg's, but it's also a lot of Kubrick's work as well. You have a story that's based off of a short story, Super Toys Last All Summer Long by Brian Aldiss, which is a 1969 storyline, where you have a futuristic society where you have Haley Joel Osment from The Sixth Sense as David, a childlike android uniquely programmed with the ability to love. And as the movie goes on, you kind of get a sense of like a little bit of Pinocchio, and it's really showing in the last half of the movie. We'll get to that later on, but you know, on a technical level, it's an incredible looking film. The visual aspects of this movie are well done. The music overall is very good. John Williams once again doing what he does best. But yeah, this is one of those movies where it's style over substance. I mean, this is a film that really looks great, has a lot of things going for it, except the story. I mean, it's a been there, done that storyline. We've seen the story done way too many times. It's a film that's not that clever. It's not that unique. It's not that inventive in terms on the story level, but everything else about it really does stand out. The visuals are great. Like I said, the atmosphere just looks really impressive. And then, like, maybe the movie could have gotten away with it, honestly, but like I've always said before, visuals don't always make the movie. You need to have a good story to keep you invested in what's going on. And the performances in here, I think, are fine, but you could definitely tell that there needed to be much more to it. It says a lot when the best character of the movie is a teddy bear, voiced by Jack Angel, and this teddy bear really, like, he really is the best thing about the movie. He's there, like, it's CG, but you could tell that he was, in some way, shape, or form, he was there on the set, and it looks legit, and it looks like he's literally there, like it's a character that you can see standing right there, and it's very impressive to look at, considering that this is like 11 years since, is before we got to Ted, which really perfected this, but that bear really is the one thing that stands out the most about this movie in general, but everything else about it is just really, it's really not that great, and then it falls into just, you've got to be kidding me levels with the ending, because if the movie had ended right before, there's a part in the movie where they go to the bottom of the ocean, and, you know, David reportedly keeps asking the statue to turn him into a real boy until his power source ends up. If the movie had ended there, I think a lot of us could have really accepted it for what they were. But nope, we have to go to 2,000 years later and find out that, yes, the Blue Fairy is real and voiced by Meryl Streep, and you know what she does? You know what? He wants to grant her the wish of spending the last day of his mother's life, and like, it gets so cheesy, so corny. And it's amazing to think that Stanley Kubrick himself wrote that. Like, everyone thought that it was all Spielberg that did that, but no, that was in Kubrick's original treatment of the movie. So Spielberg basically had to do exactly what Kubrick had in there, and I don't think either one of those guys could really make this work for what it is. And really, it just takes a lot of what was working about the film and just kind of like drops it down considerably, because the Blue Fairy is not creative at all. I mean, it's literally the Blue Fairy from Pinocchio. Like, it's literally almost from Disney's Pinocchio. Like, it literally looks like her. I'm surprised Disney didn't have any copyright issues with that, but, like, it's a movie that had so much potential to it. The marketing campaign for this was amazing. It had a great trailer. it had a lot of great things about it: the visuals, the music, but everything else about it is just so bland. It's so generic, and for Steven Spielberg, man, you expect so much more from him with a movie like this. But this is one that I was just kind of like, I was really disappointed when I finally got a chance to see this film. It just really did not work in any way, shape, or form. It's not a great film. It's a big movie that has a lot of good visual aspirations to it, but has a really lackluster story and a really lackluster is cast in general. That's much better than this and deserves to have much better in it, but it just didn't work for me. I know some people are going to say that they loved it, and it's been reevaluated as one of the great films of the century. But me personally, I didn't like it. I just thought it was a big disappointment story wise. The story really is what killed it in the end. So that's AI, artificial intelligence. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is John Singleton's latest film, Baby Boy. Baby Boy, of course, is from John Singleton, and it follows the story of this guy named Joseph Summers, who goes by the nickname Jody, played by Tyrese Gibson, who's a 20-year-old bike mechanic as he lives and learns in his everyday life in the hood of Los Angeles. You see Tyrese Gibson, Ving Rhames, and also Armour Gooding, A.J. Johnson, Taraji P. Henson in the cast. This is actually the first big film for Taraji P. Henson, her first prominent role. She really sticks out in this movie, man. She really is a memorable character, and it shows the acting weight that she brings to every movie she's in, because she does a very good job of acting just as much as everybody else in the movie does. She shows a lot of what we would eventually come to see from her later down the road as a great actress in general. Everything about this movie is really well done. Tyrese Gibson in his first big film debut. I mean, this is a great film for him to show what he can do as an actor. The chemistry between the two of them works very well. It does get a little bit too preachy and a little bit too melodramatic at times, but never to the point where it becomes tiring or it becomes something that is just kind of like, okay, let's move along here. And that's just what John Singleton usually brings to the table. Like, you could tell that he does put his heart and soul into these movies, and he does put an effort that is very well done. I mean, this is definitely one of his stronger films. I mean, he's had some really good films going for him after Boys in the Hood, like Poetic Justice, Higher Learning. Rosewood wasn't that great of a movie in general, but Shaft I thought was really good. And this is a really good movie. It's probably his best film since Boys in the Hood, and he's made a lot of good movies since it. Like I said, since this movie and before this movie. But this is a really entertaining film. It's a really good storyline. Like I said, it does get a little bit too preachy and a little bit too melodramatic at times, but it does work enough to say I would recommend it. I think it is a very well-made film. Definitely worth a watch. Definitely check out Baby Boy. So, let's move on to our next movie, and that is Kirsten Dunst in Crazy Beautiful. So you also have Jay Hernandez, who stars as this poor but athletically gifted Latino teenager who endures a 2-hour bus ride every day from East LA to attend the posh, wealthy Pacific Palisades High School in Los Angeles on a football scholarship. He's a straight-A student, and he's focused and driven, but his future is cast in doubt when he becomes the flirtation target of spoiled, self-destructive bad girl Nicole Oakley, played by Kirsten Dunst, who's the daughter of a prominent congressman, played by Bruce Davidson. When his friends, family, and even Nicole's own father opposes the romance for his sake, he chooses to ignore their advice and stubbornly pursues his relationship with Nicole, whose feelings grow from simple physical attraction to something much deeper. And, this whole movie basically could have been something really, really interesting, except studio interference. That's literally what caused this movie to fall apart, because quite literally, Disney basically said that they had to make significant edits to this movie to the final cut. It was supposed to be an R-rated film, but they wanted a commercial PG-13 rating, so he had to cut out 35 different obscenities, including sex scenes, drinking, using drugs, and this director said, even said, we were trying to make a cautionary tale, and we can't show the behavior we were trying to caution people away from. And he makes a good point. You can't really do that with a PG-13 movie. Like, what are you trying to go for here? Are you trying to tell a story here, or do you want to just make a movie because you got the hot young stars here? And it's clear they wanted to make a movie specifically because they got the hot young stars in here. They don't really want to tell a good story whatsoever. And it's just not a good film whatsoever, despite the fact that Kirsten Dunst is really giving it her all in this, and it shows what she would eventually become later down the road. Jay Hernandez, I think, is very good in here as well. So is Bruce Davidson, Taryn Manning. But the fact that Disney basically wanted to make a safe and marketable movie about a film that's supposed to be a cautionary tale is just... it just didn't work. It just was not a good movie. It was a movie that had potential, had some good actors in it, but it just doesn't go to that level that it should be to make a really successful movie in general. And of course, Disney had to screw it up by coming in there, doing studio interference, and completely ruining what could have been a really entertaining film in terms of what it was trying to accomplish. And it just doesn't work in that way, shape, or form. You don't really give a crap about these characters in general, but it just didn't work. It's a misfire on so many levels, and it's a shame because the potential is there. Just the bad execution in general and studio interference. I mean, they literally ruined this movie. They did. So, on to our last movie that we have here, and that is... I'm going to remember it. I don't want to click it to remember. Pootie Tang. That's what it is. How can you forget Pootie Tang? Sarate, Sarate. Who doesn't remember Pootie Tang? This is based off of a comedy sketch from the Chris Rock Show, and it basically follows. Pootie Tang is basically a satire of the stereotyped action heroes who appeared in old blaxploitation films. The title character's speech, which vaguely remembers Pigeon, is mostly unintelligible to the audience, but the other characters in the movie have no problem understanding him whatsoever. And you have Lance Crowther, Wanda Sykes is also in this, Chris Rock. Louis C.K. wrote and directed this movie before he eventually became the Louis C.K. that gave us the very funny show Louie on FX, and then it kind of all went away when he realized that, yeah, this guy is not on the right mending, is not on the right foot, and eventually got canceled. But that's kind of what happened to him. But yeah, this is a movie that probably came out at the wrong time in any way, shape, or form. It's a movie that has definitely gone on to have this massive cult following over the years, and the fact that the movie really got a lot funnier as the decades went on. I mean, the jokes got much funnier. The film is a really funny, parody of blaxploitation in a modern setting. The writing is so ahead of its time. The comedy is so ahead of its time. The cast is amazing here. Not only Lance Crowther and Sykes and Rock, but J.B. Smooth's in this, Jennifer Coolidge, Robert Vaughn, Dave Attell, Reggie Cathy. You see Missy Elliott there. A lot of funny moments in this movie. It's a movie that doesn't get the proper respect I think it did back then, but it has definitely gone on to have this underground cult following over the years. And the more you watch the movie and you see how the world has kind of changed since this movie came out, you can understand why this movie has a greater appreciation nowadays compared to what it had 20 plus years ago. It's a really funny movie, man. It's a movie that has grown with me over time. I think it's pretty funny. It's one of those underrated little gems. If you can find it somewhere, definitely watch it. It's definitely worth a watch. Pootie Tang, a fun, silly comedy, but it's a well-made film. And so with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. The next time we meet, we'll look into the 4th of July weekend 2001 with Cats and Dogs. We also have Scary Movie 2 and Jet Li and Bridget Fonda in Kiss of the Dragon. So we'll take a look at those 3 movies on the next episode. But until then, thank you so much for watching. And if you want to see more videos like this, please visit the place on the next page. Check out the previous episode. And also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So with that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time. And until then, as always, take care.